happens.
That's where it all happens.
From creation to from his word.
L'chaim ve'livrocha. L'chaim. L'chaim. And we have another l'chaim. Oh, this is the chaser. After some strong coffee.
Smooth, not me.
Huh?
I don't care. Take credit for that.
All right. So we're studying to be able to appreciate and to know power of creator within creation. The creativity of God that gives us a deeper relationship with him. To know God is to love him. If you know nothing about another, it's difficult to love them. Hold on a second. Yeah, it'd be difficult to love. It's the awareness that we have of another that gives us. 1 second. One second, folks. All right. So the relationship that we have with God through knowing him deepens the connection. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is doing with us in Shar Yichah Ve'emunah, and the second part of Tanya, called the Gate of Unity, God's unity within creation, and our emunah, what we believe. It's something that on one level is beyond our comprehension, but on the other hand, the Alter Rebbe is bringing it into comprehension as much as is possible, with the limitations that there are to the mind, and being able to perceive the truth and the reality of God within creation. Mm-hmm. That's where we're at. We conclude today chapter 9. And the Alter Rebbe is now in a footnote going into a little depth to explain tzimtzum, contraction. The contraction of the Ein Sof, of the infinite of God. Before there's any contraction on the infinite of God, the finite of God, as it were, is the power is submerged within the infinite. It's there, but it's submerged, right? Well, Think of yourself. There's you and your qualities, and in your qualities, there's submerged those qualities of yours in your core essence. They're not revealed. When is your kindness revealed? When you choose to act in a kind way, express yourself in a kind way, right? Then your kindness is revealed. But that kindness, where was it before? Submerged in your core being. It just wasn't revealed. Was it there? Of course it was there. In what way was it there? Submerged. In the neshama, exactly. Exactly.
Something at the front.
Huh?
Something at the front, the kindness. Which is my part. Yeah, what I'm saying, something at the front, the kindness out. From being submerged to.
Or you could choose it. You could choose it. I mean, you're right. That's our limitation, shall we say, right? That something has to prompt us. God in creation, in the creative act of creation, doesn't need prompting. Actually, later on he does choose, but that's a different story. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, he chooses that, right? So where was that kindness before? It was submerged in his infinite being. We similarly have some kind of infinite being, right? Being a soul, part of God. So it's got an infinite quality of God, right? So our kindness is submerged there. Our compassion is submerged in the infinite of the core of the soul, right? So that would be at least a way for us to appreciate this concept, okay? Now.
So we have the capacity to be kind, but we have to choose to be kind.
Yeah, but yes. Now, sometimes we do it on autopilot because we just, something triggers us from the outside, and then we're not really choosing, right?
But we have the capacity.
That's the difference. God is always choosing.
We have capacity no matter what.
Huh?
But we didn't have.
Oh, we have the capacity, yeah. No, the point is over here. The point in it to appreciate over here is that it's submerged in the, if you will, in the infinite quality of the soul, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And at some point it gets revealed when we act kind, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where is the first symptom? Contraction on the infinite of God is an Adam Kadmai, primordial man, right? It's the highest form of existence after Tzimtzum, right? And the primal thought that is in primordial man, it becomes the source of all other emanations and creations of God, right? This is called the esoteric doctrine of the mystical soy dikna. Dikna means beard. Beard is hair. Hair is a metaphor for what? Tzimtzum. Why is it a metaphor for Tzimtzum? Because the human being is life. So, right? If you cut a finger, if you, God forbid, do worse, your head is hit, you can do real damage. There's a lot of pain. There could be a great consequence of damage that's done. But if you cut the hair, no pain, no damage. Hey, but the hair is of me. That's the metaphor for the contraction of what it means to condense and contract the light, the infinite light of God to such a degree that there's so little life left that you even cut it, it seems lifeless. But it's coming from me. That's a metaphor of what? Of Tzimtzum. Exactly, of Tzimtzum. Is that clear?
Not quite.
Why? Well, the metaphor of the beard or the hair on your head, right?
What? Yes.
How could it be? Think about it for a moment. Think about it. How could it be that your hair, which is of you, that you cut it, there's no pain, and there's no nothing that is going to damage you, right? I mean, unless you got a bad haircut, it might not look good, right? But otherwise, there's no damage, and there's no damage, and there's no pain. What do you mean? If you cut my finger, there is. If you, God forbid, do worse than that, an organ, there's great pain and great damage. How is that possible? It's because the life force there is vital life force. It is a much more powerful life force. And what has happened is the life force in my hair is contracted so much that there's no damage, no pain. Got it?
Yeah.
The life force is contracted so much. That's a metaphor for us to appreciate God and how He, right? How do we? That's the metaphor. How do we understand that in other terms? God's wisdom is contained in a vessel. The vessel is its limitation, right? Here we have, right? The light is contained by a vessel. It's got a limitation. Now, on a higher level, in the world of Atzilus, it's translucent. What's inside? So there's a greater unity with God, a greater apparent connection, less of a contraction. Less of a contraction of the light that is contained by this container that's limiting it. When you go down degrees into Bria, Yitzir, Nasiya, same light, same thing, but the container is not transparent anymore. It's veiled, meaning more contraction on the life force that's in it, right? What's the life force? The cup? No, what's inside is giving life. L'chaim. We don't say l'chaim on a cup, on the vessel. We say on the light, on the light that's inside of it that gives life, right? And that life is being contained, minimized. Here it's being minimized more. Here it's being minimized less. Because I see the life in there. I see the life. I see the light. I see the light. L'chaim. Right?
That would be like absolute.
So that would be like Atzilut. This would be like Bria, right? Yetzira would be, well, maybe, the Bria would be the paper cup. That maybe you can see something a little more, a little more transparent, a little thin paper. This is, thicker cup, right? Then you have a mug. Like here you see an image. In the mug, you wouldn't see this image. You wouldn't see any image at all. I can see that the cup is filled till here, right? You can see that. If you took a mug, you'd see nothing. Meaning more of a contraction.
Yeah.
Now, but what's happening is the light of God is vested in. It's not God from above watching us and conducting the matters of the world from beyond. No, he's invested from within. Yes, contracted upon, absolutely, right? Which is necessary in order that you can create, as a result of that contraction, a finite, limited world. That the greater the contraction, the greater the finitude of something. So, for example, a human being is less finite than a rock. Why? Because it's a greater life force, more apparent. In a rock, it's less apparent because of greater contraction. Now, when we speak about God, that He is the knower, the knowledge, and the known, and all is one and united in one with Him, that's in the world of Atzilus. right? Beyond the Tzilus, God is not defined or limited, contained, defined by being a knower of something, the knowledge of something, the known, all is one. That's already, even though that's a very lofty level, is already a contraction.
Steelers is
The world of emanation.
emanation. So
Emanation
God
is it's not a creation, so it's not a something, but it's godliness, not God.
Yeah.
Right?
Emanation.
It's extension of.
Yeah.
Emanation of.
Yeah.
Right.
But when the final Bria, the final like you said, the cup that's completely concealed, which
Bria Yitzir Nasiya.
that's right. Thank you.
Now, so God himself is infinitely beyond that. Yet, listen to this. You see the way the light of God is vested within here and is concealed, right? The world of Bria, shall we say, right? Contained, confined, restricted, limited godliness, but it is one with the infinite of God himself.
Always.
Not, but a perfect whole oneness, which in a way doesn't kind of make sense, because you speak about divine wisdom and a rock, like they're infinitely removed from each other. Before God, the rock and his divine wisdom are infinitely removed from God, both equally, right? Because they're finite, right? Yet the divine wisdom is totally one with God at the same time. Not the rock. Rock is a creation. I mean, it's not because this is the attribute of God.
We're talking about Echad.
Huh?
Echad.
Yeah. He's infinitely beyond, but yet, yes, bound up. Okay. That was the footnote. Now, says the Alter Rebbe, he says that we shouldn't really get so involved in the esoteric matters that we just spoke about, how the emanations of the spheres and the Ein Sof, how they came about, and the unity with God. But it's incumbent on us to have the belief, with complete belief, that these matters that are revealed to us, that he and his attributes are one. Now, we just explained, right? But the bottom line is simple. God's kindness, his wisdom, are perfectly one with him.
We have to have faith.
We have to have faith in that. Whether you understand the process of how that comes about and so on, the faith of that, right? In other words, God's kindness is not like our kindness. Sometimes we're kind, sometimes we're not kind. We have to choose to be kind. God, just like he exists, his kindness exists, right? Well, how so? Well, because just as he is, so is his kindness, is all time.
Mhm.
So is his compassion. So is his gvura, his power of restraint. They are they are in fact always expressed, just like he's always expressed.
So he's always kind, he's always compassionate, he's always
Right.
sensitive.
And refraining and holding back at the same time. So we see that in a simple way of creation, because the light is his kindness, right? The cup, the vessel, is his gvura, his restraint, holding back the kindness, right? The two are coming at the same time. They're not two separate things. They're there at the same time. So in the act of creation, we have both elements: kindness, chesed and gvura, kindness and restraint, holding back, refrain, right? And likewise compassion and all the other attributes and divine wisdom. in everything in creation, there is wisdom.
You couple-
Now, ultimately, just as God is someone we can't comprehend, the ultimate wisdom is beyond our comprehension.
Mhm.
Not to say that there isn't, again, you can look at a blettel, you can look at a leaf, and when you understand, the physically, the botany of it, wow, divine wisdom.
When Mashiach comes, it will be different.
Yeah. But the important thing is that the qualities of God are totally one with God, the attributes of God, and this is the secret of our faith. That the
Right.
faith that transcends intellect, right? In other words, we try to grasp as much as we can with our minds, but ultimately it's something that transcends because we don't know what it means that something should be a perfect whole oneness, right? That because we don't have a perfect whole oneness, we are a compound of things. That's why we get complicated, right? Because we've got different qualities, different potentials. By God, it's all one. It's not in potential, it's in fact. It's in reality. How do we understand that? But I'm saying the words. I understand why it can't be the other way because that means God would have a limitation. Oh, he could be kind. That means he's not necessarily kind. And, that means he's limited. Sometimes he is, sometimes he's not. Yeah. He's like me. No. But why would I think that way? Because that's the only thing I know. I'm not, I can't be privy to something that's so far and above and beyond.
We need proof.
But you didn't get the proof, I mean, our minds kind of.
Faith is proof.
It's not proof. This is not proof.
No,
Proof.
I'm saying.
Proof from what?
I'm saying what I'm trying to say is, we need faith because we do not have proof.
This is because it's not something provable. That's a mistake you're making. No, it's not. It's not something proof. That God is creator. That is not. You don't need faith for that.
That's why there is proof.
No, you don't need faith that God is creator. We're not talking. That's not the point we're making over here.
Yeah.
Be very careful in what we're saying. It's very nuanced. That his divine attributes are a perfect oneness with him. That we need faith for, because that we cannot truly grasp that idea. That God is creator, you have to be, an atheist is not truly an atheist. He doesn't really believe that God's not a creator, right? He doesn't believe that. He says it because it's, fits his agenda, but I don't believe anybody is an atheist. It's not possible. Not possible. Okay? Whatever. I'm not going to go into that Fabringen now. Fabringen about that another time. The point, we're not talking about God as creator. We're talking about his attributes that are reflected in the world of his kindness. You perceive kindness sometimes of God. Are you all the time? Right? His compassion, right? Why? It's because that's the way you are. That's why, because you're sometimes kind, sometimes you're not kind, sometimes you choose another, right? So that's the only world we know of, because we're a compound of things. We're not perfectly one with our kindness. If we were, then just as I am, my kindness would be, right? It would have to be just as I am. Well, I'm not God, so therefore it's not that way. So we can't truly comprehend the idea. We could understand why it has to be that way, because otherwise God would be like me, just a greater than me. He's just greater than me. It's just like, Einstein's got a greater mind than me. That has a greater mind than me, but we're of the same, cut from the same cloth. God's not cut from the same cloth in that manner. So therefore, we have a trouble to truly appreciate and comprehend this. Therefore, that's why it's faith.
We need a certain amount of imagination to a certain extent.
No, so he explained. We gave with vessels, with beard, right? So we get the concept of that, but the unity of it is the trouble, not the contraction. Contraction, we can get the concept, right? But the unity is where the challenge is. That's all. All right. All right, folks, amazing. Sorry, I can't deal with questions now. If there are. Okay, we're going to do Rambam just for a few moments.